Right, we're going.
I always want to start singing when this comes.
Oh.
Sick of living in the morning.
Right then, so we're back.
We're back. Oh, are we on?
We're on.
We're back.
Took me by surprise.
We've been on for a couple of minutes.
Have we?
We'll have to edit them songs in. So we're back doing an 100x leader.
Yes, certainly are.
And we're merging a couple together because there's a bit of a similar theme going. But the ones are, I think it was session 39.
Yeah.
39, 14.
39, 40. And I think one of them was about how do you help someone get to the top of the mountain, different sort of phases. And then the other one was the two sides of leadership. But for me, I think going on this journey and just preparing some notes, it's been really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because you don't always, what's the word? It's all about the journey going up, isn't it? It's summiting, but sometimes we forget the actual
journey that you've been on.
Yeah, the actual.
Yeah. Not being on the path we're still on.
Yeah, it's never ending, is it?
So where should we start with this then? Because I've got my notes. I've been prepared. I'm being more structured at the minute.
I know you certainly have, haven't you? And I think it's got a theme in it to this one.
Yeah, weirdly we were talking about, because I think if I give us a quick sort of summary of getting others to the next level.
Yeah.
What we talked about. So imagine that we've got a mountain.
Yeah.
And there's 4 levels on that mountain. So level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And traditionally, level 4 is more like your directors, your leaders, your senior leadership team. And then your level 1 to level 3 sort of varies. And a good example of it I thought of like us, so like base camp for us, if you like, is our apprentices really of coming through.
Yeah.
Moving from an apprentice to maybe a level 1. Yeah. And then we'd have our level 2 would be our like more senior engineers. Then our level 3 engineers, and then we get up to our senior leadership team and directors. But for me, what I found really interesting is on this sort of session, it's challenging to say, what level are your leaders at? And what level, I was thinking for you look at it from the lens of the man club, because you're leading the man club in different areas, and sort of ask the question of where we are. And I think for me, what it got me thinking about again is the capacity to get it, want it, have the capacity to do it. And sometimes we miss that. And back to expectations, we were talking about this document we've done today, all our show notes and our research, but you said, what is it you said to me out there?
I said, so we don't make it up as we go along anyway. And it's a structure in it.
But what I said to you was...
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it, and I think, being honest, no, I don't need that show notes, but then if I've got to communicate to you two, we've got to have a conversation about it, then we've got to get a blog written, then we get some YouTube videos done, all this different content.
It's all process.
Whole process, and he's probably producing this podcast, and there's probably 7 or 8 people involved outside of us.
Yeah.
Which is crazy when you think about it. So I think it links back to setting that expectation. Do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I like the way then you mentioned where you forget when you look back on the journey, getting people from like level 1 to level 4, as you mentioned, it's like a journey up that mountain. And I think sometimes you can look past the 2 and 3 and try and get people up to level 4. But I remember on some of the giant training we've done where it says sometimes you need to slow down and get your people to level 2, which is like you say, base camp. Like a Sherpa getting somebody up a mountain, you get to base camp and then you've got to acclimatise, get used to that level before you then make the next jump up. And I liked that, and it stuck with me in a way. So it's just making sure your expectations are real at times and making sure that you've got adequate training and the right people to get people up that mountain.
I like that.
And I think when you're getting that member of staff from base camp, do we give them the structure? Do we give them the training plans to get to the next phase of their journey up the mountain? Yeah. Because we've got to set the expectations and we've got to be intentional in what we do and our training plans to help them, because sometimes we might say they're not good enough, they can't get to the next camp, but have we given them the best chance and the best standard operating procedures like we've done today with the planning of the podcast? It's all a process, and have we given them the right to get to that level?
Well, we also say, have we done everything to set that person up to win?
Yeah.
I remember that conversation. I can see you giggling.
Yeah, we might touch this on a real early podcast, but member of staff that we hired, and he came in with what looked like on paper the skills to do the job, and we presumed that was enough. I presumed that was enough, should I say? And I remember going to Leon saying, "Look, this guy's a great guy, but he doesn't seem to have the skills to be able to do what he needs to do." And then Leon said, "What have you done to help him?" I said, "Nothing. His CV said he can do it. So you need to set him up to win." And that's where sort of the leadership journey began, really, wasn't it? So it's, like I say, putting in training development plans, making sure I'm spending formal and informal time with him. And it got to the end of the journey with him where I'd spent 2-3 hours a week training. And after several months, I'd come back to Leon and said, this is what I've done. Leon said, well, if you set him up to win, you've done everything you can. And then that made the decision easier as to what we do with that member of staff, whether we let him go, we put him on more training. But yeah, that always stuck with me. That it's a great example.
I think it's real simple as well. I think because I want to spin this one off a little bit, because leadership it starts with ourselves.
Yeah.
And the other giant session we was doing was all around the two sides of leadership. And it says, what's your own personal performance, and measure it from 1 to 10. Yep. And what's the performance of any people who you lead. But there's a key differentiator in this in terms of how are you helping other performers perform. Yeah. The key to that language, if you think about it, performers perform, right? And for me, as a leader, I've always tried to do this. I didn't get this right when I was unconsciously probably incompetent, and even when I was unconsciously competent, I didn't do this. I thought I had to be involved in every sort of aspect and facet. I think we've all made that mistake.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, certainly.
I think what I've learned as I've matured a bit more is my job as a leader is to get the hell out of the way of the team, but my job is also to be on hand to coach and give advice when needed, but it's making sure that you're invited for that conversation, because I think one of the most toxic phrases in business really is human resources. I really don't like it. I think humans aren't resources. Humans are people. And I think we've got to look at our people what can we do to help our people perform better? It should be human performance. I think even our shares called human performance, because I despise the word human resources because it looks like everyone's a number. Whereas if we want to create something great, we've got to look at and understand who we all are as people first and foremost, is what I would say.
Yeah,
I think that part of leading a team has been really hard for me. When you said about being involved in every aspect of the process or the organisation, I was guilty of that. I wanted to be involved in everything, and it was to the detriment of the team, and the team wasn't growing. I've took a step back, but I've put processes in place. And one of the guys at the Man Club, one of the facilitators, he went, Paul, you lead us all. And I said, look, we're all a team. I don't class myself as the leader, but he said, what you are, he said, you're the glue that holds us together. And I always think we're a captain of a ship, and we give, as long as the ship's going smoothly, and if I see it going off track, I just go in there and we just guard them a little bit more and just let them, they can sail the ship. But if I just see it going off course a little bit, I just nip in and we just finally tune things again and keep it running smoothly. And it's worked. It's been a game changer over the last 3-4 months.
I think it's always evolving. And I think the key for me is often the concepts of leadership and development are really confusing, difficult, and they're a struggle at times for many people. And what I mean by that is, I remember rolling ourselves back when you was doing your MVQ many months ago, back in Melton. I remember having a conversation about situational leadership, and I can remember his eyes just glazing over me, as in, what is he talking about? And he had to go away and do his research and all the rest of it. And I think it is difficult when you go on a bit of a journey, because what we're talking about is, I think, to be a great leader, what I'm always trying to work towards is deeply understand myself first, because we are weird individuals, all of us. Are we the best version of ourselves first and foremost, in our communication, in our relationships, in our work ethic, in what we do? And then only once we can understand ourselves can we then deeply understand others, and then can we work really hard to communicate for others. And there was an interesting point you mentioned out there in terms of, we was having a joke about rugby, weren't we?
Yeah.
What was it he said?
I said, we was talking about sportsmen, was talking about the podcast, and Dean and I was talking about like football managers. Not every football manager has to be a great player. Yep. And I said, Leon was the same. He wasn't the greatest of players, but he's a real good manager. That's what I said.
But then what I said to him...
Then he challenged me back.
But I challenged him back because I would do. I'm relentless, so I'm still playing.
Yeah, he is.
At 41, I'm still playing. Yeah. I'm still out there, still having a go. And I think for me, it's not about being the best. It's about being a part of something bigger. And it's about knowing your roles, your responsibilities. And it's about knowing that, might not be the most skillful player, but when if a ball needed carry, I'd be there.
I think he's totally true in what he says. And if you wanted somebody on your shoulder, Leon was there and still is.
But the fact is, this is the fact, isn't it? I think what most people get wrong in leadership, in business, even when you're an employee, is they think they have to have everything figured out. And I always say it to you, even now in the gym, I'm just taking the next carry.
Yeah.
I even have that language to now. It's just about the next carry. The next, what can we do next to influence it? And I think we overconfuse it.
And when we're tired, you say, this is the first carry.
I do that.
Don't we? We get the head on. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's simple. And I think for me, where I link this back to then is, if you think about it then, so if we want to lead others, and then I'm saying that we've got to deeply understand ourselves first, it's what simple concepts have we got that can help on that? And I've shared this with a pair of you. There's a great documentary by Jonas Hill. Yeah, it's about his therapist, Phil Stultz. Fantastic documentary. But what I really love about that documentary, and if anyone's not watched it on Netflix, get on Netflix, watch it, is for me it brings together a lot of leadership tools, psychology tools, and puts them in a really simple, sustainable sort of framework so you can see things. And one of them he talks about really eloquently, and it's linked to Maslow's hierarchy of needs that I've talked about loads. Yep. But he talks about life force, and he says life force, if you looked at it like a triangle, and we had 3 levels to it, the first level is your physical body and your relationship to it. And he says if that's not right, we can't build on top of it again. So think about it if we're leaders and all of a sudden we've got an headache, a migraine, our back's not right, we're not healthy in our body, it affects every decision, it affects everything, doesn't it, in terms of that. And then the sort of next step on that is, what's your relationship like with other people? Again, think of that from a leadership perspective, that's even huge, isn't it?
It's critical.
You can't really have relationships with other people, you can't lead.
It's all about building businesses, building relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. And then the sort of the last rung on the ladder, but the most highest one is, what is your relationship with yourself? And it gets quite deep along that. So then, when you look at that as a lens, if I said this to you, then what is your relationship? If we was to apply the sort of giant framework and say, like, from 1 to 10, what's your body, personal? I'll share that. Mine's probably about an 80, 85, because I've been working on getting back in the gym, all these different bits. Now, the reason why it's a little bit low is I've gone a bit crazy playing rugby again, which we was talking about.
And as you get older, the little aches and pains come out.
Correct. Even though we're meant to
last longer.
Even though we're meant to be playing Masters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Leon, you don't play Masters.
So that's been a bit of a challenge. And I think the lesson I'm learning is slow down a little bit, be less relentless. So that's why mine's a little bit low. What would you say?
I think mine is about a 75, and mine's a little bit lower than yours, but I think 6 months ago, mine was probably 55. So my fitness levels have come up. I'm happier in myself.
You was a machine the other week in the gym.
I am trying my hardest.
Tried my hardest to kill you in that 50 minutes, and you just kept on going.
I know, but it takes me 4 days to recover afterwards. I keep with him, but when I go out, I cry. But no, it's another one this year. The word I was using was consistency, and I've been fairly consistent this year. I've been in the gym. I've never let go. There today after this session, and my eating is 10 times better than it used to be. 10 times. So I'm quite happy at 75. I've got 25 to go. I'm not 100% happy, but life's a journey. And if I'm 85 and I keep showing up, and I keep trying my best when I'm there. So yeah, it's a 75. I've got a long way to go, but I'll get there.
What you got to do now?
I'm going to say about 80. I'm physically fit. I do a lot of running. I enjoy that, but
you're off the back of a massive injury, aren't you?
I am, yeah. Snapped my Achilles in June last year, but I'm nearly at a year now, and I've got back to what I was running, as in distance and time. But me and Paul was talking about this off air earlier, and the 30% what I'm missing at the minute is something a bit more strenuous and physical, and that is football. I've realised at the point I did it, when I broke my Achilles, I wasn't that bothered about returning to football, but as I've got back into fitness and got my body back where I want it to be, there's a gap, and it's mentally missing as well. I feel like I need something a bit more challenging. So I actually reached out to one of our customers today, and who's got a 5-a-side team, and see if he needs any extra players. And I feel that's the missing piece for me at the minute to get physically where I need to be. And mentally.
Bill's got a 5-a-side team going.
That's the one. I didn't want to mention his name.
That's the one.
Yeah, I've reached out to him.
Again, this is another one.
It's a good laugh.
I was playing 5-a-side football last year, but my calf keeps going. And I'm doing really well in the gym now. And so I'm not going to play the football because I want to keep going in the gym.
Well, it's interesting how you mention that, because we're on a lead that again. So we're all answered about our sort of, if we look at this real simple life force, the first rung of the ladder is our physical body, but the key what I wanted to talk about is our relationship with it. And what I mean by that is, key one for me this year that I've really focused on is, I always use the word relentless, don't I?
Yeah.
I think I've been relentless in terms of the way that I don't look after my sleep. I used to wear it as a badge of honour that I slept 4 hours, 5 hours, and I got really challenged this year. I've been helping Luke develop from a leadership point of view from the Giant, and then he's been holding me accountable as well on some more personal goals in terms of health. And one was 8 hours sleep. So I'm going to challenge you to sleep 8 hours, and I haven't been going to the gym as early in the morning because I've been getting my sleep in. And honestly, I feel brand new just on certain little things, because I think what I found in terms of my relationship with myself and my body, I felt like I had to punish myself in certain areas if you went certain areas, because just in my mindset we don't have it all figured out. And I think it's interesting when you look at it through that sort of lens. So then let's do the next one, relationship with other people. Where are we going with that? Shall I go next?
Yeah.
I think I'm about a 85, 90. I think you should always be able to look for improve. And I think when I say that, I was having this conversation this morning actually on a 10-10 I was doing with a member of the team, and it was interesting. Whenever conflict comes up in relationships, I always think there's an element of truth. I always say this to you about feedback, negative feedback.
Yeah.
There's always an element of truth in it. And I think sometimes what ends up happening, when you start changing as a leader and become more aware of yourself, you start doing things for yourself. So like a big thing I've always done is no notifications. This is where this conversation was. And when you have no notifications, sometimes you might miss some comms with people that are used to you responding really quickly. Yeah. And I think the challenge comes with that is it's back to that setting expectations again in them relationships, which takes effort. Yeah. It takes comms. Sometimes when you communicate like that, it is a challenge. So I think for me, relationships, 85, 90 are always there, but there's always, I think, massive areas of improvement we can all make, because we can all have more time, we can all be more conscious when we put into that in some situations. But anything you want to?
Yeah, to be fair, it's an interesting spin on it, that, because you say about, I suppose, your time is also working on that. And one thing I struggled with a lot was time, because I give too much time to people, not necessarily the right people. So one thing I have done, which, if we go back previous podcasts, I admitted I was bad with my telephone, like my mobile phone on the night.
Your eyes go, your attention flows.
Yeah, but my wife can back me up on this now. So my phone, at a certain time, it goes on the cabinet and I don't touch it till the morning. Even so, it used to be in the bedroom. So on a night it'd buzz, I'd look at it, I'd get up to go to the toilet, I'd have a quick look. I've got rid of all that, which is good.
How do you feel just by doing that?
I feel a lot better, because what I was doing is waking up in the morning, and generally I'm the first one awake, so I look at my phone, it's maybe 10 minutes before the alarm's about to go off, and I'll have a quick look through my emails. Straight away, I'm engaged in work mode. I'm straight thinking, right, my day's this now.
Year 5. Bang.
Yeah, and that's before I've had a conversation with my wife and my kids. So I leave my phone downstairs, out the way. We get the kids ready, we get downstairs, we make a cup of tea. When I'm sat down, that's when I'll pick my phone up and have a look. And it works well, it works really well. And I think the other thing is time with other people. I've tried really hard, and I believe I'm getting a lot better at it, and it's people who drain my time. If they're not contributing anything towards work or my family or me personally, if there's no reason for me to be interacting with them, then I need to be a bit more brutal with my time, really, and cut people out.
Is it brutal or is it honest?
It's honest, and it's something I've always struggled with, because I've always liked to try and help people. But what I've found is, if to focus on myself and the goals of the company when you're at work, you have to make these sacrifices, otherwise you won't get your own stuff done.
Yeah. And I think naturally, you've been a nurturer. You do care for everybody else, but what ends up happening is, and we've said it all the time, it's like it's the aeroplane, isn't it? We're on an aeroplane, it's going down. Whose master we put on first? Yeah. Dean's putting the cabin crews on. He's putting everybody. Everyone's got a mask on, but Dean.
Yeah. To be fair, it's been a long journey. This one, it's took a while, but now, I mean, we as we're growing as a business, though, we've got customers, haven't we? We've got some fantastic customers, but we've also had customers in the past that have killed our time.
We've had to go, haven't they? Because we've changed what we're doing. They didn't get the value we were doing, and we've had to let them go. It's not like, the language I like to use is like Disney. He says it best. We're obviously not making them happy. Us changing our model. Yeah, we want them to be happy, so we help them take their happiness elsewhere, don't we? And that is the way it works. Yeah. What would you say about relationships? Because quite poignant at one for you.
Yes,
you've retired from one of your many hats.
Yeah,
recently, haven't you?
So yesterday I finished.
It won't be yesterday when this goes out.
No, oh sorry, yeah. So I just done my last scouting game for Hull FC, which I've been scouting for 24 years, as long as my youngest lad. And he came with me yesterday, and it's something, it's good that we're talking about this podcast today and this subject, because like Dean said, we've only got so many hours in the week, and I wanted to put my family first, and something had to go. And that was the least that I had on my list. I wanted my weekends to be with my family and not doing something for somebody else, even though I loved it. I wrote yesterday, I've stopped doing something I love to do something with the people that I love. And I think that's just a nail. I've done it for 24 years, and I'm just putting other people as a priority now. And yeah, it's great that we're coming on this subject. So I'm about an 85, 90, because I'm getting better, and I'm realising, because I believe years ago, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that at all. And even though my wife said, carry on doing it, we love doing it, I didn't love it as much as I wanted to spend time with her. And that was it. It was my decision, and my decision only. So yeah, after 24 years, I'm hanging up my hat.
And that's it. We've only got a small amount of energy and focus, and I think we've really got to guard that. Now, where this gets deeper now is the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, again, we can talk about the chimp paradox. We can talk about all different tools or different concepts to put it. But I think the Phil Stultz and the Jonas Hill series, he talks about part X. We've all got a part X, and he talks about it's like an invisible force that keeps us from changing. And what I mean by that is, if we go a little bit deeper on it, I'm a huge believer, and I've read it loads in psychology, and it's popped up in all different ways. When we're on the wrong path, the wrong path for where we can self-actualise and we're doing our best work, our body and our emotions have a real good way of making us feel not at ease. And I think they sort of slow us down, depress us, slow us down to make us stop and think about what's going on.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, some of the bits we're talking about now, you think at your lowest when you injured your foot, you couldn't even, you think we talk about body,
yeah,
you couldn't even walk around, you couldn't even get around, you couldn't chase the kids, you everything you found important to you, gone.
Stopped.
All of a sudden, how important does football and your health appear to you right now?
Yeah, I think I needed to go through that. It wasn't enjoyable, but it's that when you self-reflect and you realise, actually, these are the things that are most important to me, what are the easiest things to have, yet now I've lost them, I need them back. So I think, like I mentioned earlier, by getting back to full fitness, I've realised about the priorities. I love spending time with kids on a weekend. Football I love. And I stopped doing all these things because other things took over. Other things took my time, and the things that took my time are not important to me. So it's like I need to get back to myself and do things for me and my family.
But I think what's really interesting when we get into this, we talk about procrastination.
Yeah.
So if we look at part X of us, it's that part that basically tries to mess our lives up. It tries to sabotage what we're doing. But I think getting really deep into the understanding yourself, each of us have all got our own unique and wonderful ways of messing ourselves up.
Yeah.
Our own insecurities. And I think for me, what I really realised, reflect on this, I put on my emails now, don't I, that I'm dyslexic. I make it more like a badge of honour. Now, I don't truly believe I am just dyslexic. I think it's just a label for other people. But what it means to me is the way my brain works, and from scars of me being told at school that you'll never be a mountain off thing and you're an idiot, McQuaid, all this to be right, all that noise is in my part X. It's never going to go away. So I have to acknowledge it.
Yep.
Not bury it away, and actually put things in place to make me more organised. For example, in a process,
yep.
We can share this. Coming up and working harder to get past that part of me that wants to self-sabotage, but also I think deeply recognising it's not going to go away. Putting things in place around communication, so I don't make answers, I don't react, I act. So it's to understand that. So what's everyone else's thoughts on having a part X and seeing it through that sort of light?
Go on.
No, go on, you jump in.
So I think my part X has always been my mental health, and I've brought coping mechanisms in now to rectify my part X. My part X, my poor mental health will always be there. I think I'll always be on that journey, but having coping mechanisms now and feeling it come on and knowing when I'm going down in my moods and reacting to them, that's the way that I deal with my Part X, is getting out, getting in the open, getting to the gym, keeping myself reasonably fit, keeping on that journey, because I know if I don't get out in the open, go for walks, play my music, walk my dog, get to the gym, I can feel myself slowly, my Part X takes over. And that's how I get over that.
I think what you got to look at it as, and I think what really helps me and give anyone another tool on that, is you got to think of Part X, or your chimp as I like to call it, as the villain in your story. And you just got to understand that villain is there to mess up your evolution. But I don't think it's there to mess up your evolution. Far from it. I actually think it's a positive relationship, because we only learn when we fail.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've had poor mental health for a long while, and it's well publicised, and I won't change it for the world, because if I hadn't have had it, I won't be in the position that I'm living my best life now. And it's funny, innit? It's if I hadn't have gone on this journey, what would I be doing? I won't be doing what I love doing now. So it's not, I don't look at it as a negative.
Oh.
Not at all.
Where would you want to go, Dina?
Yeah.
How do you want to add?
Yeah, I think my ex is, I don't know, there's a documentary I watched on Dr. Dre, and there's a businessman behind the guy called Jimmy, I think it's Jimmy Iovine or something is his name. And I remember one of his sayings, and it was, he always thought he had to work harder than the next guy just to do as well as the next guy. And I think that was always drilled into my head as well. My mum and dad have always grafted all their lives. So I was like, right, I need to graft as hard as I can in order to make a living. But as I've grown, like we've worked on highest and best use, I've realised all the energy I'm spending on doing these multiple tasks, I need to be focusing in this maybe 1 or 2 areas instead of the 10 areas that I'm spending my time on. And that was an hard transition. Even now when I get sucked back into doing multiple things because maybe we're short on people or whatever.
I'm laughing there because we've got a new org chart, because we're trying to really get Dean into, he excels at customer success, the way he gets on with them, and all the problems he solves for them. So he's got no direct reports anymore. We've even took the lines off the org chart, right? Yeah. But he still gets sucked in. And he's still in there. He's still in there on the help. No, you're not in there. We've got the biggest team we've
worked
ever.
Really hard,
and we've got the biggest team out there we've ever had.
Yeah.
And he's still here. And we've got a new org chart. And this weekend there was a few problems for customers because it can happen. And who's front and centre sucked right back into it.
Yeah, mate. But the good thing is I raised it and we picked up on it, didn't we? And we're going to address it.
We're going to address it.
That's the main thing.
Back to this, when we look at this again, though, about raising people up for the different levels.
Yeah.
So, Dean's on senior leadership team with us. But we had to backfill level 1, level 2, level 3. But we've got new people in the business. So, like, the new org chart is perfect, because when we have that conversation and we're looking to solve it, why is Dean solving that there? And it's using that to discuss what processes is missing, because there might be some processes that you might not know of that they've got, and all of a sudden it's about managing them expectations. But what I also want to talk about is tools of how people can apply this. So I think if we put our leadership hats on for staff, and I think we go through this really quickly on these keys, we spoke about it, but I think it's real simple: training development plans.
Yeah.
Same page sort of meetings in terms of session, 10 minutes for you, 10 minutes for them, 10 minutes to discuss next actions.
Yeah.
And then having statements of expectations. So writing job specs up and tasks, but also standard operating procedures, really documenting the processes. Would you agree, disagree?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And like I say, another one is project plans to deliver. I still do that now on a monthly basis or weekly, depending on what jobs we've got in. Getting that statement of expectation down on paper, distributing that out to external and internal clients. And there's a lot of work what goes into it, but you just have to spend that formal time with your head buried and get stuck into it, don't you? But yeah, there's various methods. Like I mentioned a minute ago, the formal and informal time's a challenge, which I've always struggled with. I prefer informal. I'd prefer to go to somebody and talk about what problems they've got and how to fix it.
Whereas I'm the same.
Yeah, but you're quite good at. I know you invest a lot of energy into formal time, don't you, and documenting, which you're quite good at.
But what I do is I use that as my. In Giant, we talk about 70% of our highest and best use and 30% of admin time. So let's take this podcast for example. I had to spend half an hour today just putting this agenda together, so we stayed on track, all of us.
Yeah,
I didn't want to do it. I couldn't think about what.
And then at the end of it, getting it all prepared, and
I know that then when this goes to post production and it goes, the work's done.
Yeah.
And then also, it's just it's a better conversation for all of us.
Yeah.
Better experience for the listener.
But my part X, my chimping me, you haven't got the time, you haven't got this, and it's telling me loads of reasons. It even wants to tell me you can't write, you can't spell. And part of that is true, but I've got the systems and tools that I can. So I think, so I'm with you. So we're going to cut this one short because listeners who are listening, tune back in because there's going to be a second part for it because we're going to let this one go out because I think we need to have another half an hour to get to the two sides of leadership.
Yeah.
You all agreed?
Yeah. Totally agree.
We'll take a deeper dive in a minute. So if it's the first one you're listening to, jump on to part 2 and we'll deeper dive into that one.
Yeah.
So that's Leon checking out.
Paul checking out.
Dean, check it out.